and welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, you will learn how to make the corner-to-corner snowflake afghan. This is a beautiful afghan that uses the corner-to-corner technique and following a graph to create these really wonderful geometric shapes that resemble Fair Isle. This is a beautiful afghan and one that is not for the faint of heart to crochet because it requires a lot of patience, a lot of skill, and a lot of time weaving in ends. This is actually one of my own designs. I designed this piece and I will not lie, it is one of my favorites. This is one of those projects that people will stop in their tracks to look at what you're making. It is a showstopper. This will be one of those projects that you have laid out on your sofa and everybody's just going to be like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Or maybe you make one up and you submit it to your state fair. It's going to win blue ribbon, because it is so beautiful. Now, when I say it is not for the faint of heart, I truly mean that, because as you follow along in the corner-to-corner method, every time you see a color change in this afghan, you have to cut your yarn and rejoin with your new color and then carry on. There is not a whole lot of opportunities to actually carry the yarn up from the row below to work to the next row, which means you are going to have a ton of ends to weave in. And when I say that, I am not even lying. By the time this thing is done, if you don't weave in your ends as you go, it will look like a shag carpet on both sides of the project. So I want to throw that out there just so that all of you are fully aware that when you tackle this project, it will be a labor of love, but when it's finished, it is going to be an heirloom project. Now, what do you need to complete this blanket? Well, first off, you need the pattern, and that is free, as all the patterns are over at redheart.com. You'll find a direct link to the pattern right down there in the video notes below, and while you're down there, please smash that like button, as my kids say, so that other people know you enjoyed this video. Along with the free pattern, you will need 7 balls of Red Heart Super Saver in red, and 6 balls of Red Heart Super Saver in white. Now, does it have to be red and white? Absolutely not. You can make this in any colorway you want. I actually think it would be beautiful in a cream color and maybe an iced blue color. I think that would be gorgeous. So you could do anything you want, as long as you have 2 highly contrasting colors, so that way all of the work you're putting into it will really make the motifs pop off of the fabric. Along with your yarn, you will need a 5mm crochet hook, a good pair of scissors, and a bent tip tapestry needle, so that way you can weave in your ends, because as I said, there's gonna be a lot of them. Download your free pattern, gather your materials, and I'm gonna show you how to work the corner-to-corner stitch, how to change colors, and how to read the chart, so that way you can complete this wonderful heirloom project. The corner-to-corner snowflake blanket is an intermediate project, meaning you should have the basic understanding of general crochet skills and how to do corner-to-corner. Now let's jump in. We will begin by chaining 6, and this initial chain 6 will count as our first chain 3, and then we will work 3 half double crochets into the remaining chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We will skip 3 chains, and I will do a half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook, then a half double crochet in the remaining 2 chains. Once I complete these half double crochets, I have completed my first square. That little beginning is where we begin this entire pattern. Now let's take a look at the chart so you can see exactly where this is. As I pull in the chart directly from the pattern, you can see that it is a nice representation of the full blanket, and there are numbers listed on all sides of the chart. Remember that when you read a corner-to-corner chart, you actually will read beginning down in the right-hand bottom corner. That very first little square there is where you will begin reading. And that first little square is represented by that little square that we just completed. So as you follow along, what you will do is you will read your chart going from the bottom up to the top on the even number rows, and from the top down towards the bottom on the odd number rows. Let me bring in another little chart that I used in one of those videos that I mentioned earlier, so that way I can better show you what it looks like. Just because this chart is so teeny, I want to make sure I bring this in so you can understand what's going on. This little square right here is the one down in the bottom right-hand corner. And as I mentioned, you will read the even number rows from the bottom going up and the odd number rows from the top going down. And you will continue that going back and forth until you reach the top corner of your chart. On this chart, it is square number 3. On the actual blanket, it's square 75. Once you get to square 75 on your blanket, you will begin to work even back and forth in rows until you get to row 87. When you get to row 87, that's when the numbers here, let's see, row 87 and 87, that's when we will begin to decrease down to get back to where we're at one corner. So that's how you will read this chart. This chart is vital for you to be able to complete this blanket. Here's something really great. Down there in the video notes below where you found the link to this pattern, there's also a link to a bigger chart for this pattern. So I've taken this chart and I've made it a lot bigger so you're able to download it and expand it either on your electronic device or have it printed off on your printer, maybe on several different sheets, and then you paste them together. So that way you can follow along and not have to squint and keep track of where you are. The best thing to do is get a chart that works for you and find some way that you're able to mark off the stitches as you go along to know where you are. Otherwise, it can be very easy to get off track, especially as you start working up here in this section and you have to change colors as you work along. What we are going to do in the video is begin right here with our square number 1, and then I will begin to show you how to change colors even right here on the outside. Once you know how to do those color changes on that row, the rest is up to you. You will know how to work the rest of the chart because you'll know how to complete those stitches by changing colors. And then because you already are familiar with corner to corner and how to maintain the same number of squares, how to increase, how to decrease, you'll be on your way. You'll be able to make this really great blanket. Now let's go ahead and go back to the pattern. Let's move my little charts out of the way. I'm going to move this back up here. And let's carry on in the pattern. For row 2, we need to go ahead and turn our work. We will chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I will put a half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. And then I'll put my half double crochets in the next 2 chains. There we are. And because I'm following along on the chart, I know that I don't have to do a color change yet. I simply have to come over here and complete my next square. So I will skip all of these stitches, come to my chain 3 space and do a single crochet, chain 3, and then work 3 half double crochets all into this space. So there's 2 and then here's 3. So what I've done here is now I've completed row 2. What's going to be different now is when I come back on row 3, I have to change colors in order to get that really pretty crisp white stripe around the blanket. This is a way for me to be able to complete the blanket, and when I was done, I was done. So instead of adding a border, I incorporated the border in my blanket. So that white stripe that's all the way around the blanket, that's what I considered my border. Brilliant, right? What I do here is I go ahead and I turn my work. I will chain 6 to begin my square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Work a half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook. Do my half double crochet in the next chain and begin my next half double crochet in the next chain. So I began it, so I have 3 loops on my hook, but now I want to change colors at this point, okay? So I will grab my next color, and for demonstration purposes, instead of white, I'm going to have this tan color represent the white squares in my blanket. So I just hold the tan right up next to my hook, yarn over with the tan, and pull through. So what that does is it allows the blue stitch to remain uninterrupted, but I have the brown on my hook ready to work. So as I do my next square over here, I am going to complete it using the brown yarn. So I've done a single crochet, chain 3, and I will put 3 half double crochets into this chain 3 space. But on my last half double crochet, I'm going to stop again because I need to change colors. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having bobbins going, I'm going to go ahead and snip my blue that I left hanging out down here. So now my blue is ready. I just come up here, and just as I did with the brown, I will now go ahead and yarn over with the blue and pull through. So now my brown is uninterrupted and I have the blue on my hook. I can come over here and I will go ahead and I will snip the brown right there because I'm done with that brown and I'm ready to move on with my blue. So I will go ahead and put a single crochet in that chain 3 space, do my chain 3 because this is my increase at my opposite end, and then work my 3 half double crochets around that chain 3 space. So what you're looking at here, this is my row 3 with the start of my white edging going around, but it's in tan. Now some of you might be wondering, okay Marley, why did you cut the brown? When you come back and have to use brown again, can't you just carry it up? The answer is no, because if I were to just carry up my yarn from where I left it off, I would get a float coming up the side of my work, and it's just not very pretty. I don't like it. So when I tell you that you're going to have lots of tails, I was not kidding. So what I want you to do right now is, before you move on to row 4, take a minute. I know this takes time, but weave in your ends. So I will simply set down my work, grab my bent tip tapestry needle, there it is, and I'm going to go ahead and weave in my tails right now. This might be tedious. It might be something you're like, oh, I can go a couple rows before I do that. And you very well could. You could wait until the end of the project. But I will caution you from doing that. I am telling you, you guys, this blanket is going to have a ton of ends. I will actually be able to show you on the sample, so that way you will understand what I'm talking about. So all I'm doing right now is I'm simply just weaving in my tails. You'll notice I'm not crocheting over top of them. I'm just weaving them in and give it a nice snip. Come over here to where the brown was that I left hanging out. This is the one that I cut, and I will weave this tail in, and I will weave it in through the same color as I am working. So I will work straight through the brown. Okay, so there we are. And I've got my tail here, so I'm going to just weave it in. And I want to make sure that it doesn't look like it's visible at all, as if this is the right side or the wrong side, because this blanket, if everything is done correctly, will be reversible. You won't have a right side or a wrong side. It will be simply beautiful. So I am weaving in that tail, so that's not going anywhere. I know those of you out there that are thinking this is going to be a lot of work. It really is, but you saw the finished project. It's stunning. It's so worth it. Here we are. I'm going to do this brown tail too at this end, just so that it's done and out of the way, and I don't have to worry about it. Okay. And I'll leave that one there. No, I won't. I'll tuck that one in. Let's get it done. Let's do this. If we're going to do it, let's do it. So here we are. I want to make sure I have everything nice and neat. And I'm just going to weave this tail in right down like so before it snips over anything. And it will be nice and pretty. You will be so thankful that you have woven in these tails as you went along. All right, so here we are. Okay, let's get back to where we're looking at the side we just finished. Here's the side we just finished. This is row 3, and we're getting ready to turn our work, and following along in the chart, we will have a blue, and then we will have a tan one here, a tan one here, and a blue one here. So we will have more ends to weave in. So let me show you how to do that. Once again, we will change our color at the end of our row. So let's go ahead, turn our work. We have to increase out here. So this is going to be our increase square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We will do a half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I will do it in the next chain from hook. And then the next one, I will do a partial half double crochet, meaning I've pulled up with my blue, but I will grab my brown to complete it. You'll notice I'm leaving a nice long tail so I have something to weave in. So I completed it with the brown, so the brown is on my hook, but the blue stitch is uninterrupted. I skip all of these stitches, come over here to this blue chain 3, and I will do a single crochet, and let's complete this square sequence. So it's chain 3, half double crochet in that chain 3 space 3 times, and I don't have to worry about changing colors yet, because I have to have my brown over here also. So I'll skip those stitches, come over here to this chain 3, work my square stitch, which is the single crochet chain 3, and then start to do my half double crochets into this chain 3 space. But on the very last half double crochet, I have to change back to blue. So here I am. I just finished my half double crochet, so I'm going to undo it. Okay. Let's do it one more time. So I yarn over, go into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I have to use blue again. Well, my blue is attached over here, so I've got to cut it. I want to make sure I leave a nice long tail so that way I can weave in my ends. Grab my blue, hold on to my blue, yarn over, pull through, so my brown is uninterrupted, and I can carry on doing my last square over here with my blue. So I did my single crochet, chain 3, and then do my 3 half doubles right here. Now I did not cut my brown yet because I want you to see what happens when I take this brown and I pull it up to try and use it on this next square. So I'm going to show you what happens. But right here we just finished row 4. So when I turn my row 5, I'll have a brown here. I'll have a blue here, a brown here, a blue here, a brown here, a blue here. So every other square on this row is a different color. That's how many ends I'm going to have to weave in. So here we go. I turn my work, chain 6. This is the start of my square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will do a half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook, a half double crochet in the next chain, and then I will start my half double crochet in the next chain, but I have to complete it with my brown. Okay, so here I am. Remember, I didn't cut my brown here, and this is why you have to cut your yarn. If I were to bring my brown up, I have to bring it up like this so it lays right there. So there's the first mishap. So it's laying there, so I'm going to get a float. And then as I try and yarn over and draw through, see how it wants to pull that way? All right, so you're like, okay, well, that's not that big of a deal because I'm going to come over here to this chain 3 so I can just tuck it in. All right, so let's try that. I'm going to come over here. I'm making sure I grab my float, and I'm going into my chain 3 space, and I will single crochet, chain 3, and then work my half double crochets just like I was doing before. Looks good so far, right? But do I still get that floater? Yes. See that float right there? If it doesn't bother you, great, keep going on with it. It bothers me because I like my blanket to be reversible. I want it to look pretty no matter how I throw it onto my couch. And it's important to me that if you're going to put this much work into a blanket, take the time and do it right. Cut your yarn and weave in your tails. Don't float them up. All right. So for me, I am going to rip that out and I'm going to do it right because teach by example, correct? Let's start this half double crochet one more time. I will snip that brown and begin my brown right here. Stick the brown right up next to the blue, yarn over, pull through, and I'm ready to carry on. So I will do my single crochet, chain 3, half double around my chain 1s. And right here, I have to change colors again. So I am partially completing my half double, and I will have to change to blue one more time. I will go ahead and cut my brown. Yep, cut that brown again. And hold it aside. Grab the blue. Ah, the blue is still attached. See why you can't just carry it on? So look, if I were to carry it over, I'd get a long strand, and I cannot have that. So I need to go ahead and cut my tail of the blue. Hang on to the blue here. See all these ends that are already hanging out because I haven't woven in yet? So there we go. I skip all of these stitches, jump over here to this chain 3 space, work my single crochet, chain 3, do a half double, and then start my half double, and it's time to change colors again. So I need brown again. So here I go. I bring my brown in, yarn over with my brown. I'm going to go ahead and cut the blue, and then I can start doing my square over here in my brown just like before. So I did my single, chain 3, and then 3 half doubles. But on the last half double, one more time, I have to change colors again. So let's cut my brown, bring my blue back in. Holy moly, so many tails. Yarn over, pull through, and then finish with my last square. So I'm over here into the last chain 3. I did my single crochet, chain 3, and then I will complete with my last 3 half double crochets. Once I finish this, I'm going to set it down to show you what it looks like. So here we are. After just 2 rows of not weaving in ends, look at how many ends we have. Can you see that? See how much work that is? This is why it's so very important that you weave in your ends as you go along, because if you wait to the end of your project to weave in your ends, it's going to take you 2 weeks just to weave in ends. And that's if you are persistent about it. So you really want to finish this project and be able to present it to the world, right? So take the time, weave in your ends as you go, even if it's every 2 rows like I just finished. I mean, look, we only have 5 squares going on here. Imagine when we get up to where we're on row 75 and you're going down that row and you're cutting your yarn all the time to get that really great technique, that really great stitch. It's so important that you weave in these ends. So this is what I would do right now is I would pause, I would weave in my ends, okay? Let me go ahead and weave in these tails and show you what a difference it makes just weaving in your ends as you go along. Snip my last tail here and let's see what we have. Look at that. Look at what a difference it makes just weaving in your ends as you go along. And see what I mean about the blanket being reversible? You can see right here where the outside of the blanket would be in red and the tan would represent the white. And it looks great on both sides. Just that little bit of time, that little bit of extra time of weaving in your tails and making sure that your work looks pretty makes it worth it. Like I said, you're putting all of this work into a blanket that's going to be an heirloom. Take the time and make it really quality work. You can see that I have my nice little pile of tails right here, and maybe it's something fun you can do. Collect all the tails as you work your entire project and just set them aside and say, look at what I did. That could be its own success in and of itself. Now that you know how to change colors and you can see how important it is to actually cut your yarn and start a new color of yarn for each square, I feel like you are ready to move on to the next step of the chart and you can actually complete the chart as it's written. Let's go ahead and bring in the chart and let me point out some of the pieces of it that I feel are important for you to better understand. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart. Move aside everything I have here. And as I bring in the chart, I'm using the one directly from the pattern. If you are downloading the larger chart that I have available, as I mentioned earlier, in the link down there in the video notes, you can use that as well. But as we are looking at this, we began right down here in square number 1, and we began working in this direction. Let me grab this so I can use it to be a little pointer. And we worked through row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. So row 4, okay? And we started row 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what we ended on in this little sample right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see we had red, white, red, white, red. Perfect. Then you will just maintain the pattern, increasing at the edges and changing colors whenever the square is a different color until you get up to row 17. On row 17, that's where, as you're working across, you begin to have more color work happening in the middle of your blanket. So the body of the blanket begins to take shape. And you will continue to read the chart just like so, changing colors whenever you need to change colors. As long as you follow the chart in this direction and maybe put a dot or a cross through or whatever you need to do to keep track of what stitches you've completed as compared to the ones that need to be completed, you need to go ahead and do that. You will continue working that way, consistently increasing at both edges until you get up to row 75. At row 75, you will then begin to only increase at this edge and decrease at this edge. I will show you how to do that shaping right after we go over this chart. Once you continue on in this manner, you will go until you reach row 87, and that's the square down here, and this number up here, and then you will begin to decrease at both edges now until you get down to 1. So what's really great is, you start off, it's going really fast as you're going back and forth, and it gradually gets slower and slower and slower until you get to 75. Then it takes a little while because you're going through a whole bunch of stitches until you get to 87. But then you're on the home stretch at that point. Then you're decreasing down every row so you'll have fewer stitches, so it becomes easier. And what's really great, because you're a smart crocheter and you listen to Marley, you've been weaving in your ends as you go along. So by the time you get up here to the 161st square, the 161st row, I should say, you will have a completed blanket, right? Pretty darn cool. Now let's go back and talk about this shaping right up here at row 75. I'm going to bring in our sample that we've been using, and I am just going to show you how you would maintain the number of squares on a particular row. So we have 5 squares, and we are going to maintain those 5 squares by doing decreases at this edge and increases at this edge. Let me show you what I mean. For the purposes of this part of the demonstration, I'm going to ignore the color changes just because I am showing you how to do the corner to corner rectangle portion of the chart. I want to make sure that when you get to row 75, 76, you can understand what it is you're supposed to do to be able to maintain the same number of squares. We are going to pretend we just finished row 75 and we're turning our work and we're going to begin row 76. So what I will do is I will turn my work, and row 76 begins just like we have begun all of our other rows because we would be increasing, okay? So we would do our chain 6. We will do our half double crochet in the 4th chain from hook, and then our half double crochet in the next 2 chains. Again, I'm ignoring the color changes just so that you don't get confused with why everything's going to be in blue here in just a minute. What you would do now is you skip all of these stitches just like before, and you would work your squares following your color sequence just like you did before. The difference is going to happen when you get to the end of the row. So let me get to the end of this row and show you what happens and how it's going to affect the shape of your blanket. All of these squares that I'm making right now, just as I said, I'm making them just like I showed you before, doing my single crochet into the chain 3 space, chaining 3, and then working half double crochets around the same chain 3 space that I did my single crochet in. Right there. I'm coming over here and I will do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, work my half doubles. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And right here, if I wanted to increase again, I would come over here to this chain 3 space, work my single, do another square. Okay, so I do my single crochet, chain 3, and then 3 half doubles. But as you look at this, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I have 5 squares, and remember, we want to maintain that same number. So instead of increasing over here with another square, I will join with the slip stitch to this chain 3 space, so that way I can maintain this. So for row 76, we increased over here, but over here we're doing a decrease simply by not completing a square. We will join with a slip stitch. So I will join with a slip stitch, and that would be the end of my row 76. Row 77 would be turn, and you will do slip stitches into the top of your stitches you completed over to your chain 3 space. So I just did slip stitches. I'm at my chain 3 space, and I begin to build my squares again. So I did a single crochet, chain 3, and then I will do my 3 half doubles all into this chain 3 space. Skip those, come over here to the next chain 3 space, and begin again. 2, 3, yarn over, and do my 3 half doubles. I'm going to get to the end of my row, so that way you can see what it would look like. Here we go. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, you got that so far? So 1, 2, 3 squares are completed. I'm going to do this one, and I'm coming up to my last square here. And opposite of what I did before, remember I mentioned that over here we could build another square down here, but we did a slip stitch. Well, this time we do want an increase down here, so we will build another square. How do I know I want an increase? Well, 1, the pattern tells me. 2, I did a decrease over here with my slip stitches, and in order to maintain the same stitch count, if I decreased, I need to also do an increase, correct? So I had 5, I decreased down, so then all of a sudden I have 4. If I want to maintain 5, I have to do 1 more down here, and this will allow my work to begin to grow this direction. So I did my single crochet, I chain 3, and I work my 3 half doubles at this end. So what you will end up noticing is that from rows 76 on to row 87 is you are maintaining your stitches, your number of squares in each row. And then as you move on to rows 88, 89 through 161, you will begin decreasing down at both edges. So let me show you what that means. As you're looking down here, we are going to pretend we're beginning row 88, and I've changed colors just so that you can see where the difference is going to be from the previous row. So we had 5 squares, and we're going to start decreasing down. So this is going to represent if we were decreasing down to 1 corner. So right here, I would turn my work, and I would do slip stitches in each stitch over to my space with my chain 3s. So I did slip stitches. Now I'm over here to my chain 3 space. I will begin with my single crochet, chain 3, and work my half doubles. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I skip those, come over here. So I'm just working my squares just like I did before. Right? We all know how to do this now. It becomes very repetitive and actually really soothing because it's something that it's just relaxing because of the repetitive nature of it, just like granny squares. I come over again to this portion. I'm going to make my next square. Working through my chain 3 space. Come over to this last one here. 2 and 3, and do a half double, half double, half double. Now remember, on the last row, I explained that we did a decrease. So we did, and then we did our decrease, and then we did 4, and then we had to do an increase. Well, now as we're doing these rows 88 through 161, we want these stitches to decrease down to 1 square. So not only do we have to do a decrease over here with our slip stitches, but at this end, instead of building a square up over here, we will just be joining with a slip stitch at that point to bring it to the edge. Makes sense? So here I am, I'm at the edge here. I will join with a slip stitch, and that will complete that edge. So now when I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blues of the previous row, I'm down to 4 brown. And I would continue on doing this. So I would continue doing decreases at both edges. So this is the part of the pattern where I mentioned it begins to get faster. You have made it through the meat of the blanket, and it'll begin to start cruising along because you're decreasing stitches. So I just slip stitched over to my chain 3 space. I will work my square. And remember, I'm doing my decreases. So when I had 4 before, this time I should end up with 3 squares. And just by doing the slip stitch in the first square, I did my slip stitches over. And then when I get to the end here, I will slip stitch into the 3 chain space. So that way I don't have to increase at the edge. And I will begin to see that this little rectangle is taking shape. So I'm at the end. I'll just do a slip stitch instead of anything else. Set this down. And you can see I started with 5, I dropped down to 4, now I'm down to 3. And if I continue on, I could get down to where it's just 1. Pretty easy, right? It's amazing how the corner to corner technique allows the crocheter to use simple stitches to make something that is simply masterful. This blanket is a showstopper. It is one that will look good in a modern family room or a traditional family room. And it is going to be an heirloom piece for your family. I hope that you will take the time to make this beautiful blanket, even though there's tons of ends to weave in, because it is so incredibly worth it. I hope that you will share with me over on the Marley Bird Facebook page your projects as you go along. Maybe mix and match the colors and make it a year-round blanket. It doesn't have to just be for the holidays. I know for a fact that these colors right here that I've been using to demonstrate, my mom would love. I mean, look at her decorations. These are right up her alley. So it would be cool to see a blanket in tan and blue. Share it with me over on the Marley Bird Facebook page. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you will come back here for more videos on knitting and crochet right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever there's a new video released. Smash that like button, and I will talk to you guys again soon. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Bye! Alright, you finished the video, and I promised you that I would show you all the ends. Are you ready? Take a look at this. Holy moly! And that's not even all of them, you guys. We have been weaving in ends for weeks. So when I tell you to weave in your ends as you go, trust me, weave in your ends. Please don't forget to share with me your project and check out some of the other videos right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Bye!